incidentally a researcher from the Forestry Department, and respected URS Sinha, the APCCF, the Chief Wildlife Warden P. Lalnundanga. So dear colleagues, professors from the university, staff from the Mizoram state government, from the Forest Department, and also the scholars and the students from various departments of NZU. So it is a great pleasure for us to celebrate this International Day for the Biological Diversity, which is on 22nd May. So being a Sunday yesterday, so today we are here to celebrate in collaboration with the State Forest, Environment and Forest Department. So the theme of this year, as was mentioned by the Registrar, is building a shared future for all life. So as we all know, as most of us are involved in the biological sciences, in forestry, biodiversity research, we all know that cooperation and conflict is common among all societies. Be it a bacterial environment or be it a eukaryotic environment. And so there is always an intra and interspecific competitions. The entire, as the theme says, for all life. Right? So there is a huge interaction between biotic and abiotic factors, which actually demands more of attention and research in the coming years. So we also know that there has been 5 mass disasters from the day the life originated on this earth, and at the end of each of this era, the dominant species of that era has been wiped out. Like for example, Jurassic era, we have all seen the movie of Jurassic Park as well. Right? So scientists are now wondering whether we are in the middle of another mass extinction. So the dominant era of this, the dominant species in this era are Homo sapiens, and whether we are in the middle of another mass extinction is the worry of the scientists. So there are so many tremendous ecological disasters that has been happening. We are in fact digging our own graves by not paying much attention into the biodiversity. So Northeast is also believed to be one of the hottest of the hot biodiversity hotspots in this world. So we also know the reason why Northeast has such a huge biodiversity in terms of flora and fauna. It is because of the Gondwana theory that happened billions of years ago, and which actually created different continents like Asia, Africa, Europe, and the other continents in this world. So Northeast India was originally a part of African diversity. So when it detached itself and merged with the Oriental region, the Eastern Himalayas, the Himalayas also originated, right? And today we are in the extension of this Eastern Himalayas. So documentation is very much necessary, and as we all know that Mizoram University has been progressing very well in the last 2-3 decades, especially from its origin. So there has been a lot of research going on in different branches of flora and fauna. This program, today's initiation by the Chief Wildlife Warden, along with the state government departments of Environment and Forest, has paved a new stone in the history of the Mizoram state, where more collaborations and more interactions could happen, and more amount of research and understanding of the ecosystem are possible. So we are, I will not take much of the time now. We are very eager to hear to the Honorable Minister's speech, and also our the guest of honor, Lalnundanga, and also from the other members of the university who are going to speak about different aspects of biodiversity today. So I once again thank the Environment and Forest Department of the Mizoram government for initiating and sponsoring this full program, and thank you for organizing this event in NZU. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor and Senthil Kumar, for your encouraging and enlightening speech. Now I would like to welcome Chairman Prof. Jitendra Kumar, IFS Principal Secretary and PCCF, to deliver welcome and keynote address.
Honorable Minister, for environment, forest and climate change, transport, land, judicial and parliamentary affairs department, Honorable MLA and Vice Chairman Bamboo Development Board, respected Registrar of Mizoram University, other dignitaries from the University, non-government organizations and representatives, and my own colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of our department, I would like to welcome our Honorable Minister to this function. Honorable Sir, under your guidance, we are working successfully to enrich the forest, to enrich the forestry resources, to enrich the natural resources, to protect the resources, and also sustainably manage the resources. Honorable Sir, under your guidance, we are all working with people's participation to a collaborative approach to conserve the forest, to preserve the wildlife, and also to protect the biodiversity. On behalf of the department, I would also like to welcome Honorable MLA and Vice Chairman of Bamboo Development Board. Honorable Sir, your presence here is a great moment for us, and your presence will certainly motivate all of us to work better for more and more public benefits. I welcome the Registrar of Mizoram University and a team of officers. It's really a great moment here that we are strengthening the partnership of the department with Mizoram University. We are working for the last several years for building upon this partnership to manage our resources in a better way. Today is another milestone that we are going to achieve. We are going to strengthen this partnership. And with this partnership, in fact in Mizoram, our department has adopted long back a collaborative approach. We work closely with the people. We work closely with the people through village level institutions. We work closely with the NGOs. We work closely with the academic research and technical institutions. We work closely with all the stakeholders. It's a perfect collaborative approach. I take this opportunity to inform you that in a small state of Mizoram, we are having more than 1,000 village level forest based institutions, and we are working closely with them. In fact, last week I went on a field visit and I could really see the successful how we are building upon, how we are generating public benefits, how we are working for the people's benefits through these organizations, through VFDCs, Village Forest Development Committees, Eco Development Committees, and Biodiversity Management Committees. These committees are a unique assets for the state of Mizoram. The state of Mizoram, we are blessed with a large extent of forest cover. As per the latest India State of Forest report published in 2021, the state of Mizoram, we have more than 84% forest cover. The percentage forest cover, the area under forest cover for a total geographical area, is the highest among all states of the country. So that is the asset that we do have. Not only that, the forests are rich in biodiversity. As many as 6 forest types out of total 16 in the country have been reported to occur in the state of Mizoram. So that is the base of biodiversity, that is the rich base of diverse flora and fauna that we possess, we have in the state of Mizoram. Of course, that's there, but the biodiversity is under threat. And maybe because of that, because of the richness and the threat, the state lies in a region forming part of Indo-Myanmar global biological hotspot. In the entire world, we have 36 hotspots. and we form a part of one out of that. That one index, that diversity index, has been assessed by the Forest Survey of India about 4 or 5 years back. So technical term is Shannon-Wiener index, Shannon-Wiener diversity index. That index, we got a better value. It shows that we have several species of flora and fauna. Not only several species, but their abundance also. I am happy to inform you here that recently a new species of snake was found in Murugan National Park. That means we are still discovering new and new species. We have the base and we are trying to enrich the base closely with the Mizoram University. And one thing that it's under threat, no doubt about it, because of biotic interferences, because of natural disasters. The biodiversity base of the state is under threat, not only in the state, in the entire country and maybe globally also is under threat. And that's why this year we have a very good theme, that building a shared future for all life. Building a shared future for all life, that means this is the thing, this is one of the most attractive things that personally I could find it out. And it's really a great attraction for all of us. The theme is really catchy. And the unique that we have adopted this year on the Biodiversity Day. That means we must together, for our benefit and for the benefit of all life. See, all life are interconnected. It's a science that something that is very clear now, that all life forms on the earth, in the sea, maybe in the air, it's all interconnected. If those lives are not there, we are also not there. So that's why the theme is that building a shared future for all. The future for all lives should be ensured. So that is the theme we are working upon, and we will further build upon this. So on this day, suddenly we will take a pledge in our heart that let us build a future for everyone, for all lives, all lives which are there on the earth. In fact, this is something that how we can do. This we can do only with the people's participation. Suddenly our department is much grateful to our Honorable Minister for giving us the concept that forest must be known for the people. That's there. Forest, in fact, there is something, we remember something for the democracy, there is something for the people, by the people, and that the people. I say that forest is of the people, let it be managed by the people, and let the benefit go to the people. So once the people they realize the forests are for them, certainly they will come forward and they will protect. In Mizoram, fortunately, it's a unique, one of the unique states, one of the unique places, maybe in the globally also, that here people have protected the forest since long back. We still have that what we call village safety and supply reserve forest, and that's well protected. In fact, whenever I go to the field, I really find a nice patch of forest managed well by the peoples, by the village council, by the NGOs. So this is something very unique. So that only this, that we have to protect now well, that forest is for the people. And here is something that I request Mizoram University, that the Environment, Forest and Climate Change Department and the Mizoram University, we can work together, that starting from A, B, C, what is biodiversity, how much it exists in the state, and how to enrich that, how to protect that, how to manage that, what are the direct benefits of biodiversity for the people, direct benefits and indirect benefits. Mizoram University and the department can work together, and we can document and we can place before the public that this biodiversity is for you. All of us together, come together and let us protect the rich biodiversity which exists in the state of Mizoram. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Jitendra Kumar, for your inspiring words, ideas, and thoughts for sharing with us. Okay, well, let us proceed with the order of the program. Now I would like to invite our guest of honor, Professor Lalnundanga, Registrar, Mizoram University, to deliver his speech.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Chief Guest, Minister of Environment and Forest, the Government of Mizoram, and respected member of the Legislative Assembly, my colleague, Upisia. So he is with us here. And PCCF, Jitendra Kumar, and additional PCCF Kusinha, and Imowetei, and other officers, my colleagues here in the university, students, friends. Yeah, as we celebrate the Biological Diversity Day, we all know that, so yesterday is the exact date since it was Sunday, so we could not have this kind of a meeting. But I thank the Forest Department for organizing such a beautiful gathering here, observing this Biological Diversity Day today here in the campus. As we just heard from the PCCF, since the existence of this Mizoram University, so we are working together with the State Forest Department as far as possible, in terms of especially in research and development. So that was really a good initiative from both the organizations, because the university, the purpose of having or standing of the university is like to help the people, to help the state in terms of different kinds of knowledges, transferring the knowledges to the society. So as he rightly mentioned that we welcome the initiatives of the State Forest Department, especially in terms of this research and development. So from his speech came to my mind that from this university we have been doing a lot of research work related to this biodiversity, especially in particular. But there should be a kind of coordination or from both the organizations like extension activities. Example, like we have our own findings from the research work. So that needs to be extended to a particular area or to the society or to the state. So if we could have kind of coordination and discussing about our findings through which we may enhance in conserving the biological diversity of the state and also as a whole in the country. So we are very much welcome to whatever the initiatives we have received from the Forest Department. So in future also, I do hope that so we'll be working together in different kinds of activities. Then the second point which I'd like to emphasize a little bit on the topic, the theme of this year Biological Diversity Day. As the PCCF has mentioned about the State Forest report. Yes, we know that our forest cover is something like an 84% of the total area, geographical area of the state. But studying in depth of this 84%, so I just want to highlight a little bit on that. Like, if you look at that, there's a very dense forest that is only 150 something, 7 square kilometers, which is of 0.7% of the total area of the state. And then going to that, mid-dense forest, like that is 27%. But the open forest is very huge, like 56.7%. So the total come up with 84% of the forest cover. So we all are here as scientists and are researchers over here. So we need to study the in-depth, the statistics that we have over here to conserve the biodiversity of, if not as a whole here in the country, but at least for the state of Mizoram. So if you look at the report in detail, so we, the Mizoram, is among the 5, what to say, like these are losing the most diversity in the country. Because the first one is Arunachal Pradesh, as you know, 257, decreasing the forest area from the previous report. With the Mizoram, it is 186 square kilometers we are losing from the previous report. So, if you look at the total area of this Mizoram, losing 186 square kilometers of the forest covers, so it might have a very, very high impact on the biodiversity. So what I'm going to say over here is that if you look at the report, the reason behind losing the biodiversity, they have mentioned 2-3 points. The first point is the shifting cultivation and felling of trees and other these natural calamities that may not affect much on the state of Mizoram. But the main will be, like they're stating, that the shifting cultivation, the farming system that we are practicing over here in the state. And another point is like the development activities from my own calculation, so it might not affect much on the there's a biodiversity. Anyway, I'm not going to spend much time on this. What I'm going to say is that to conserve the biodiversity of the state, at least the state. So I used to say that we may think globally. It is well and good to think globally because we need to know the updates, what happened in the world. So we need to think globally. But the important thing is that having the different statistics as a whole, the world statistics in terms of, different statistics as we have just mentioned. But the important thing is that if we work, if we act at our own responsible places, like we should say in short, we may think globally, but if we act locally, so that would make a great difference. So as we know that our theme is building a shared future for all life. let us remind ourselves on this very day of Biodiversity Day. What would your or what would my legacy be in terms of sharing the future for life? What would your legacy be? What would my legacy be for the future generation? So this is an important point which I would like to mention on this very important day. So with that, I will end up my speech, and we'll be hearing more. There's a specific kind of a topic presentation from our resource person. So I wish whoever come here have a very success celebration of this Biological Diversity Day 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lalnundanga, Registrar, for sharing your thoughts and ideas with us. Now let us proceed with the order of our program, and I would like to call upon Professor G. Guru Subramaniam, School of Life Sciences, to give his presentation on the impact of biodiversity loss on zoonotic diseases.
Good afternoon to whom and all. Honorable Chief Guest, Minister, Environmental, Forest and Climate Change Department, and also Chairman, Mizoram State Biodiversity Board, and respected Chairman, Principal Secretary and PCC, and the guest of honor, the Registrar, Mizoram University, and other dignitaries of the dais, and heads, deans, heads, and faculty members, and research scholars of Mizoram University, as well as officials from the Forestry Department. Today, the assigned topic is impact of biodiversity loss on zoonotic diseases. While I was doing my PG program, I did my dissertation work in zoonotic disease, that is leptospirosis. That is a spirally shaped bacteria. The origin is from the rat urine, especially rat urine. I did my PG dissertation in Hafkin Institute, Mumbai. There a separate department is an ICMR institute. Previously it was a plague research laboratory. It is especially devoted for zoonotic diseases. So after my PG program, this is an opportunity for me to share my views on zoonotic diseases and how it affects our biodiversity. That is our main outline of my topic. So what is zoonosis? See, previously we are seeing there in before 2020, zoonosis or plural form is zoonosis. So they have included all vector-borne diseases, food pathogens, everything they have included there. But as per the WHO 2020 protocol, now they have included only vertebrate animals. So what kind of infection coming from vertebrate animals to the humans? That thing we are clearly mentioning, that zoonosis. So now you look into that particular slide. Already I told, zoonosis, any kind of pathogen that comes from the wild animals or domestic or wild animals to the human being. So that may cause diseases. So that's why now we are in COVID-19 pandemic time. It's a very sad thing, but still we have been recovering from that particular state because it affected in many levels. Here, three terms are there. One is zoonosis, and number two is emerging infectious disease, EID, and third one is zooanthroponosis. So zoonosis is infection coming from either domestic or wild animals to the human. That is zoonosis. But whenever you are coming to that emerging infectious disease, see whatever pathogen, causative agent that is coming from the animal, that undergoes mutations. So that way their pathogenicity increasing. So in that case we are telling that is emerging infectious disease. So the term is very, very important part. Then whenever you are coming to that zooanthroponosis, so this is coming from human to the animals. That's why we are telling reverse zoonosis. So this three term is very, very important part. So today I am going to discuss with respect to COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. I have already informed emerging infectious diseases. Whenever you are using the term emerging infectious disease, that particular disease may exist in the population or it may be new, but that cause pandemic situation. So that is very, very important part whenever you are using the term emerging infectious disease. See, another term is spillover. See, this is very, very important part. Evolutionary jump, other name is evolutionary jump. So what is the meaning of spillover? Normally each and every disease causing pathogen, they are having a host, natural host. But whenever you are using the term spillover, what is happening? That is transmitted to the novel host, new host. Then that way their genetic makeup may change. That's why the causative agents or causation for the spillover thing is maybe by chance or by exposure or repeated exposure, and as well as the genomic change. There is a change in the genetic makeup. So that is spillover. So now with respect to that COVID-19, this thing happened. Previously also SARS-CoV is there. So many viral diseases, bacterial diseases, and fungal diseases. So whatever may be the diseases, everything has come to the stage of spillover. So that is a common pattern, phase. So next, if you are coming to that spillover, so this particular slide clearly showing, one is our animals. So whenever you are coming to that animals, here we are categorizing the thing into, one is domestic animal, number two is peri-domestic animal, and the third one is captivity. Normally we are rearing animals under captivity, that is the third category, and fourth one is free-ranging wildlife. So with respect to this four category, that determines your spillover. That's why this particular slide clearly shows. See, most of the, whenever you are coming to that zoonosis, around 99% normally transmitted from the domestic animals, but only rarely 1% from very domestic or captivity animals or wildlife animals. That is in the case of zoonosis. But whenever you are coming to that COVID-19, that is emerging infectious disease. Already I told, emerging infectious disease are nothing but pathogens are there. It will, after entering into the human system, it undergoes mutation. So that way their pathogenicity power may increase. So that is very, very important part. But whenever you are coming to that emerging infectious disease, our domestic animal sharing only 28%. The major share is from captive animals or peri-domestic animals or wild animals. That's why COVID-19 is still debatable. It's a debatable whether it is a zoonotic disease or emerging infectious disease. But as per 2020, yes, they come to a conclusion that, but still it is under debatable thing only. They are telling that it is an emerging infectious disease, probably with animal origin. So that quote they are giving. But now if you are seeing there, what are all the major pandemic outbreaks? Because it starts from, already you know about that flu. So there are different types of flus are there. Hong Kong flu is there, or swine flu is there, or Spanish flu is there. So these are all originated from different countries. But all flus, if you are seeing there, these are all originated from the pig. That is one. Then whenever you are coming to this Zika virus or Ebola virus and MERS-CoV, because this Zika virus and Ebola virus originated from the Africa, but while this MERS-CoV, that is from Saudi Arabia. So MERS-CoV reservoir host is camel, but while Ebola virus, one is primary thing is bat, but secondary thing is your chimpanzee or gorilla. And for Zika virus, rhesus monkey. So now if you are coming to that SARS-CoV, because there are also 3 different types of strains are there, SARS-CoV, CoV-1 and CoV-2. So if you are coming to that SARS-CoV, bat and civet, those are all the animal origin. But whenever you are coming to the SARS-CoV-2, that is COVID-19, because it's a new thing. That's why we are telling emerging infectious disease. It's a new strain of SARS-CoV. That is, animal origin is pangolin. So this is very, very important part. So now, next we are going to, whenever you are coming to the zoonotic diseases, how it is transmitted. See, basically if you are seeing there, one is land use management. Already our registrar clearly mentioned about that shifting cultivation and other practices, intensive agricultural practices. Yes, so land use management playing a major role for the transmission of zoonotic diseases. Then another important part is, yes, close contact with wild animals. That's why we are telling wildlife trade. So that is another reason for the transmission of zoonotic diseases. So whenever you are coming to that, this SARS-CoV-2, yeah, one origin is maybe from wildlife trade, especially that because human being while hunting, going for hunting, yes, they are in contact with wild animals. So that way it is transmitted. See, these are all theory. Still, yes, we have to do a lot of research to confirm this particular statement. And another important part is, yeah, that's why recently Haider et al. 2020. So they published a paper whether COVID-19 is a zoonosis or emerging infectious disease. Because what they did, all over the China, they collected around 4,000 samples from the market, from the different type of animals, and they tested whether that particular sample containing SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 strain is there or not. they got all negative result. So that is why they come to a conclusion that it is not a zoonotic disease, it is an emerging infectious disease, probably with animal origin. That particular conclusion they came. Then we have seen what are all the transmission of zoonotic diseases. So next important part is, what are all the drivers really involved in that zoonotic diseases, especially with respect to human nature interactions. That is very, very important part. There are around 12 components are there. Here, this particular slide shows 4 components. One is your unplanned urbanization. So next speaker is going to speak in detail about that urbanization. What is the impact of urbanization regarding that biodiversity loss? Then second one is your pollution, climate change. Next. And intensive livestock farming. Then exhaustive agricultural practices, deforestation. Then wild meat trading, that bush meat trading. And another important part is that tourism. Then indigenous people, indigenous people playing a major role. They are all the major drivers for transmission of the zoonotic diseases. Then land use change, I already informed. And human wildlife contact. So these are all the components, especially environmental issues, that playing a major role for the transmission of zoonotic diseases. But among that different components, scientists, they have identified 4 important drivers. One is, major thing is land use change. The number 2 is wildlife trade. And the third one is intensified livestock production. And the fourth one is climate change. So these are all the 4 important factors playing a major role for the transmission of zoonotic diseases, especially your COVID-19. So zoonotic disease, yes, but how this indirectly or directly affects the ecosystem as well as the biodiversity. That is very, very important part. That's why our registrar already informed. We have to do a lot of research on this aspect, because I did my PG dissertation in the year 1986. I did on zoonotic disease, but still in India there is no research on zoonotic diseases. Very limited research is going on. That also of bits and pieces. So that is why in this auspicious International Biodiversity Day, we have to have a challenge that we have to work on this kind of zoonotic diseases. Then recently, Food and Agricultural Organization, they have come to a conclusion. Okay, whatever measures we would like to take regarding zoonotic diseases and biodiversity loss. So what are all the 4 principal criteria one should follow? They have already given that one. So first criteria is, see, we are totally, before making any policy, so very important part is we should consider the indigenous people as well as local communities. That is very, very important point. That's why clearly they are telling, first you recognize the importance of indigenous people as well as local community regarding the use of wildlife. That is very, very important part before taking any policy decision. And second criteria is, yes, we have to stop that spillover. So for that, what kind of strategy we are going to take? See, that is second one. And third one is, see, normally among the public, this panic situation is there, always panic situation is there. After hearing the news, oh, someone is suffering from COVID-19 or positive thing, immediately, we imagine ourselves and knowingly, unknowingly, unwanted thing we are doing. And we are misguiding the people. So that is very, very important part. One aspect is, see, normally we know where from this COVID-19 originated, especially that animal origin. So really what we'll do, we will kill all the wild animals. See, that is another important part. So that is why in this day, this is very, very important part. Even next speaker is going to talk about snakes. See, normally you see human nature is after seeing a snake, yes, immediately we will kill the snake. That is our nature. So that is why in this August presence, yes, I request, yes, because that's why we are conducting this kind of awareness program and we are celebrating that International Biodiversity Day. Yes. So we have to be very careful while handling wildlife animals. That is very, very important part. And fourth criteria is, very important part is, yes, how we are giving resilient environment for the wild animals. That's why the theme already is there, building a shared future for all life. Yes, that is our fourth criteria. How we are going to accommodate, what kind of strategy we are going to follow and to execute. So that is very, very important part. So that is why. So now this Convention of Biological Diversity as well as Secretariat of Convention of Biological Diversity, SCBD, and World Health Organization as well as Food and Agricultural Organization, they come together, then they have given certain solution. So what kind of strategy one has to follow for policy making? So first criteria is, yes, because you see, with respect to, initially we told, we have to go for research and development. See, we are doing everything we are doing individually. In a collaborative way, we are not doing. That is the drawback with respect to our strategy. That is number one. So that is why we have to develop integrated socio-economic stimulus packages. So how we are going to do? Yes, we have to sit across table and we have to discuss. Then we have to make a policy. That is very, very important part. Then another important part is, yes, very important part is collaboration, not only one or two. It should be multi-sectorial as well as multidisciplinary collaboration. Here I would like to add one more thing, transdisciplinary collaboration. So then only we can achieve our objective. So that is very, very important part. That may be a government or international organization or NGO, any type of organization. So this is very, very important part. Another important part is we have to have one umbrella, one health approach. So that is very, very important part. So this is also proposed by World Health Organization in the year 2017. So under that one health approach umbrella, here very important part is, yes, same, our theme, what it is telling, same thing. We have to give room for each and every life. We have to consider each and every one. So that is very, very important part under one health approach. But this is knowledge based. So that is why you have to have a ecological thinking, not a normal thinking, ecological thinking, as well as you have to have sound knowledge about this science, especially biodiversity. So if you have to have this kind of thing, then only we can attain our objectives. Otherwise, bits and pieces we are doing. That's why our PCCF, our chairman also mentioned it clearly. He has mentioned, yeah, we have to do collaboration is very, very important part. We have to collaborate and we have to contribute a lot. And each and every stakeholder has to take a responsibility how we are going to sustain our biodiversity. That is very, very important part. And apart from that, yes, other criteria is one is zoonotic disease or biodiversity loss, whatever kind of research we are doing, everything is we should focus, and we should for that also we have to give some time. So that is very, very important part. So for that very important part is only doing research is not a part. Here we should get lot of cooperation from the government, whether it is a central or state. That is very, very important part. Without their help, that's why we have to have a very good policy. Because policy is good, yes, everything is good. That's why we have to create a very good policy for how we are going to tackle our problems and how we are going to find the solution. So with this now I end the speech. Thank you.
That was truly a knowledgeable and interesting presentation we have from Professor Guru Subramania. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Now I may call upon Ms. Pui to have her special item. Thank you, Mr. Pui, for serenading us with your beautiful voice. Now I may call upon Dr. David C. Lalnundanga, Assistant Professor, Department of Forestry, Mizoram University, to have his presentation on urban biodiversity and lifestyle change to prevent loss of biodiversity.
A very good afternoon to you all, respected Chief Guest, Lalnuntuanga, how we fondly call him, and our Registrar, Professor Lalnundanga. He was my teacher, and then respected MLA, Dr. K. Pachuma. He was the advisor when we were in the undergraduates, in the Silong Mizo Student Union. And yes, the PCCF and other dignitaries of the environment, forest and climate change, and my dear colleagues and my comrade in the conservation of environment. A very honorable moment that I have here, and I am very much happy to stand here and then to speak on this topic which was assigned to me, urban biodiversity and lifestyle change to prevent loss of biodiversity. And of course, I would like to warn you that this afternoon's presentation will be like related to, say, in the perspective of mostly of an activist. My experience as an activist in this environment conservation or biodiversity conservation will be much more reflected here. And then some of my formal educations and my research works will also be reflected, but mostly it will be in the perspective of my experience as an activist in the environment conservation. So it will be not that academic as compared to the previous presentation and then the previous other presentation that may be presented. We all know about urbanization. People move to the city or to the town to have a better, thinking that they would have a better life there, to work somewhere. So they move to the city or to the town. That is broadly called as urbanization. So the extent of this urbanization in India was clearly seen in the great exodus due to the COVID pandemic. This is a painting of my friend, Rajarsi Gope. He's from Silchar. He's one of my artist friends. So even though I don't ask him, but I just use his painting because I feel that this is a realistic, very realistic image that that tells the level of urbanization that is happening in India. When the pandemic was breaking out in India, all those migrant workers, they have to rush home to their home in any way they could. Some they ride on the train, some they ride a bicycle, some they walk more than 100 miles or maybe 500 miles a day. If you read the internet, then you will see. So such is the extent of this urbanization in the Indian cities. So the World Economic Forum reported that in India there are at least 139 million migrant workers who are working in the city or the town each year. So the number of migrant workers, or the number of people who left their village home for urbanization, it is much, much more than the population of many countries. So such is the extent of urbanization in India. However, we will come to see that the rate of the urbanization from 1960, it has increased, it has jumped up to 35% till 2021. The rate of increase is around 2.3%, which is more or less similar with other countries as well. So in other way, we can say that even though the real population might be very high, but then the rate at which the urbanization is happening in India, it is not that extreme as compared to other countries. But still, since we are very big in number, the population is very huge, then we can see that the impact it will have on the biodiversity will be very severe. Let us see Mizoram. Mizoram is one of the most urbanized states in India. Around 52% of the population are living in the urban areas, as per the 2011 census. So a large number of urban centers do not fulfill the census criteria though, because there are several things that a town or a city might have, should have, to be declared as an urban area. But then those things are lacking, but still they are declared as a town, and so we have to declare them as an urban area. And then in Mizoram we have only one municipal corporation, but then the other one is coming up in the southern district, that is in the Lunglei town. So very soon we will be having two municipal corporations or two municipalities. So all the other urban centers or all the other urban areas are governed by the village councils. They might be termed as a town or they might be termed as an urban area, but still they are under the authority of the village council. So that is the case of Mizoram. So the urban population percentage of India and Mizoram from 1961 is represented here. This is adapted from SIM 2017. So a little academic there. Okay, I think no need to stress much on this. Okay, so what is the importance of urban biodiversity and why do we have to speak about this? Because urban areas or the cities, even though it occupies only around 3% of the Earth's surface, but then these cities normally are established in a very fertile land. So the biodiversity is more or less, before the city or a town is established in those areas, the biodiversity is quite high because it is fertile. In the case of Mizoram, I don't know whether that is the criteria for choosing the village or not, but then one of the important things that our Mizo forefathers they used to follow is that whenever they are hunting for, whenever they are searching for a place for a new village, they would carry a rooster. And so if that rooster doesn't cock-a-doodle-doo, then they feel that village is not healthy enough, that place is not healthy enough, that place is not good for settlement. And so that is the way how the indigenous groups also in the Mizoram, they select their village for settlement. So that means that for settlement, for human settlement, we need a fertile land as well as we need a very sound environment. So whenever we set up a village or whenever we set up a town or an urban area, then that means that we are modifying the pre-existing biodiversity in that area. That is why urbanization and this biodiversity is very, very important. So in many cities and towns, you can see that there are lots of distinct animals. So even very very recently, so to say, maybe 10 or 15 years back or like that, the researches are still going on. Many new species are described from the urban areas as well. And then, on the other hand, like one of the researchers from Assam University, he was working on the urban wildlife, conservation of urban wildlife, their situation and their status. He was presenting in one of the seminars here in MZU. So, we just think that we human, most of the time, we just think that the human only exists in the urban areas, but then it is not. Other species, other wildlife are also existing here. Let us see some few photos. Okay, this is a monitor lizard, Varanus bengalensis. I took this photograph from my balcony of my room. I don't have a zoom lens, as usual. I never use a zoom lens, so the picture is not that clear. But then here is an RCC building, and then here is a tin roof. The tin roof of Dr. S.T. Zani. It is their house. They live next to us. This Varanasi bengalensis was climbing on a Artocarpus heterophyllus to a jackfruit tree. It is on the backyard of our home. So you see, these animals or these life forms exist along with us. Until and unless we disturb them, they remain calm there. Okay. And then this is my hand. This is my camera, my old camera. I don't have it anymore. I think this is a swift. We call it bamboo. So yes, we all know. But then, if you like those who are a bit aged, so to say, older than me, you might realize that in most of the villages or in residential area, in the maybe 20 years back, you will see that these types of birds, bamboo and chongsong, sparrow, they exist along with us. But nowadays they are very rare to find because our urbanization is chasing them away. So these are some few avian and mammalian diversities of Aizawl city, which was taken. These photos were taken mostly by Rochambian and Lalnundanga. They are willingly donating it to me specifically for this presentation. That is why I clubbed them all together, so that if somehow it spill out from this laptop also, the copyright will be reserved like this. Okay. So you will find here, if you read if you count the number of pictures here, you will see that there are at least 30 different species. These are clicked only from the Aizawl city itself, not from elsewhere, within the Aizawl municipality. We just walk on the street, we drive on the street, and then maybe some students or younger generation, they might be partying somewhere, or maybe going for a picnic elsewhere. But then you might not seen all these types of birds. Me also, I haven't seen all these types of birds. Some I have seen. But they coexist with us. If we don't disturb them, then they multiply themselves. But then once we destroy their habitat, then they have to flee. Okay, so these are the key drivers of anthropogenic-induced biodiversity change. Land use and land cover change, including urbanization. Whenever we talk about land use, most of us, we always say the shifting cultivation and the agricultural land use systems. But we hardly say about the urbanization. Urbanization and industry, they are one of the major drivers of this extinction of biodiversity. If you read about the Tata Nano plant, which was supposed to be set up at West Bengal, they were fighting because of this biodiversity only. They chased them out because of this biodiversity, because that land was very fertile. We are so obsessed with capitalism and industrialization that sometimes we forget. We never blame this urbanization and related. Mostly we blame the grassroots of the society who are involved directly or indirectly in this farming and agriculture. Let us think carefully that our urbanization is one of the key drivers that is chasing them away. And our urbanization is one of the major drivers for the zoonosis. Sir has said that. So we have to think it that way. Think out of the box. Let the normal discourse be forgotten, at least for these few minutes. Let us think about the urbanization as a necessary evil. Yes, of course, we need some better form of livelihood. So we have to go to the city. But then, in doing so, we also have to know that we are chasing the biodiversity away. That we have to know. And we have to accept also. And of course, nitrogen deposition and acid rain, these are also resulted from the urbanization only. These are normally produced from this vehicle exhaust and other industrial exhaust. And then in the production of invasive species to ecosystem. This is a very, very interesting thing. And this is always very alarming. Whenever a new species is introduced to the maybe agricultural farm or to the forest or to the ecosystem, we have to think about this. We have to think about it carefully. Just because of its high productivity, it might not be that good. It might be invasive, who knows? Until and unless we did a very, very deep research about it, then I feel that we should not introduce these exotic species anymore. Then climate change. Climate change is always the culprit. Whenever we cannot explain anything that is happening in the nature, we always blame the climate change. But the climate change is happening, or it becomes abrupt because of the urbanization. Again, it has to go back to the urbanization. Abrupt climate change is because of the anthropogenic activities. Majority of the anthropogenic activities happens in the urban areas, so that means an urbanization. So we sit here calmly, but then we are part of the, so to say, instigator of these things. Okay, so these are the key drivers of anthropogenic-induced activities in the flowchart. So I think I have already explained, no need to go through this anymore. Okay, now lifestyle changes, what we can do. Talking about lifestyle, I'm not here to say anything about how we should dress or how we should do this and that thing like our daily life, or maybe like the glamorous way. But the lifestyle or the value system that we are having should be tolerable for the ecosystem that we have to follow. Like here, this is the Google image of the Aizawl city. So few green pockets are here. So if we could link all these green pockets, as small as it may be, but if there is a linkage or a so to say a corridor for the wildlife to cross that, to reach the other side, so that we can prevent the habitat fragmentation. Inbreeding and all those things also might be averted. Of course, the avian biodiversity, they could fly, they could reach the other side without going on the surface. But then, not all the biodiversity that we have in the city, they are not all birds. So we have to think of those creepers, or those reptiles, or those mammalians, or those terrestrial animals. So if we could set up at least some few wildlife corridors, maybe in Aizawl that might not be possible anymore because it is not a pre-planned city, but at least in other towns, like in case of Lunglei, Champhai, Serchhip, Kolasip, Mabit, Saitwal, Khozor, or any other big town. I think we have to think about this, linking all those green patches. Many villages and many YMA branches, they are having their own social forestry programs. So those social forestry programs, they are the hub for these types of biodiversity nowadays. So if we could link at least some few of those, then the result will be more fruitful. So I think the department should also try to focus on this, linking these green patches. And then as a researcher also, I think we have to focus on these things also. Abolition of air rifles. I add this because I know that the minister is coming. I think it was when Purin Moyo was the EF and CC minister in the previous ministry. We were setting up Safe Mizoram Bats committee, and then we met him. Professor HT also was there, and then other people, other activists also were there. And so we write a letter to the EF and CC minister, and then requesting him to go to abolish these air rifles. But then, due to some problems, his tenure as a minister was over very soon. I don't know whether he has taken up the initiatives or not. So here you can see that this person is waiting for a bat. He's hunting actually. And this is within the Aizawl city. This is happening within the Aizawl city. And here, this is a Facebook group. And so they are selling their air guns. I have lots of screenshots of these kinds of images, but then I feel that these two are enough. And I also heard that there are lots of birds who are, so to say, losing their beak or their wings. When they carefully analyze their photograph, they could see those kinds of things from the photograph. They could observe. So that means that air rifle is very prominent here in the city. Not only in the city, even in the villages and suburbs also it is very common. But then at least we have to act something. We have to do something. So I request you, sir, to kindly take up to this matter. Because they say that these foreign air rifles are so powerful that it can even kill a deer, barking deer. So we have to think about this. And then the empowering the locals, indigenization of conservation. I told you that my experience. I was lucky that I have been many a times I have been assigned to evaluate the National Afforestation Program right from 2009. So in every assessment, till last year also we were doing this evaluation. Till last year, the same thing continues. That is that we, the Forest Department people, hardly achieve the target of those participation of the people. People's participation is always lacking. There is one good reason why, because people don't trust the Environment and Forest Department because of the previous forest management system that was introduced in India, like the clear felling systems and those things. That was a big mistake, but then fine. Those things are not followed anymore, but then people find it difficult to trust. They don't have the sense of belongings to those types of NFP and GIM forestry plantations. They hardly participate. But whenever we give the assessment, we are always asked to choose one thing. You have to do good or do right. Do good in the sense that we have to give them good grade so that they could receive the fund next year. If not, they won't receive, so that is doing good. But doing right is that giving them the exact gradings that they deserve. So most of the time, we are bound to select we have no other option but then to select to do good, than to do right. So if that trend continues again, then definitely we won't achieve the target anymore. We will not be achieving that. But on the other hand, the social forestry set up by the locals or the indigenous group, they are always very successful. Because they have the sense of belongings. They did it themselves, they planted, they have the sense of ownership. Here, you see this is the flag of the YMF. If these flags are painted on the tree, then they won't cut down. Because the people have the sense of ownership, sense of belongings in them. But if you paint the red and the green, it belongs to the Forest Department. Why bother? That is the mindset of the people. So, what the Forest Department also has to strive is to attain the trust of the people and then to make them participate more in these types of things. I have discussed about these things with the PCCF last year in his office, and he was listening, and I hope that things will change in the next term. So protecting the natural areas and metrics, planning explicitly for open space in new subdivisions, management of building, I won't read out all these things. So these things are required. So these are the things that we can follow, even here in Mizoram also. Okay, first things first. Sometimes we are so ambitious that we think that we don't need all these things, or we already have those things, and then we strive for some materialist things. This is a drone image which I used from one of the blog of my friend. Sometimes we forget that we need this other, like the biodiversity first. We need a better environment first. This is a playground from Serchi. It is an astroturf field. And then this is the Rajiv Gandhi Stadium. And then here is the muck disposal area. I used to play football a lot. I used to be a defender. They never say that I'm a good footballer, but they always tell that you're the most toughest or the roughest person. Because during that time, those cuts and those things were not introduced in our area. So if you lose the ball, then at least you have to stop the man. That was the instruction we received. So that was the style of our playing. But then, when we have this AR ground in the Rajiv Gandhi Stadium covered with AstroTurf, everyone was happy. Then Nunglei and other districts, they started having. Still they are happy. But then now, it is like as if we are distributing sweets to each and every villages we are promised with this AstroTurf field. When we receive water supply after every 17 or 18 days, we don't have sufficient water, but we have more than sufficient AstroTurf field. First things first. We could not control the muck disposal, yet we are trying to save the river. We give no, efforts to stop the muck disposal. Very recently, Save Mizoram River movement was launched. I was also part of it. One of the most contributing factors for this depletion of riverine biodiversity is this muck disposal. Very recently, yes, this is Tulkum River. All this kind of muck disposal and these things are there in the law. They have to make a demarcated area where they dispose all these things. Of course they did, but then the monitoring part is always lacking. That is destroying the riverine ecosystem. Our urbanization is destroying our riverine ecosystem. Most of you, I think some of the students, I should say, are in the hostel. I don't know how frequently you have received water supply. Our department, our school, normally we could not carry out our practical because we don't have water. We don't have enough supply of water. Yet, we are spoiling our river like this. This photograph, I took it last Monday, specifically for this presentation. I went to Klong with my cycle, of course. This is how our urbanization is affecting the riverine ecosystem, or how our lifestyle is affecting the biodiversity. I don't want to show all the bad things, but then at least we have to know. At least some few of us who are coming here, if we act, then definitely we can have a better future. So, let me conclude. We cannot exist here alone. We have to maintain balance. We cannot just stop people from going from urbanization. We cannot just stop construction of roads and houses. We cannot just stop practicing agricultural practices. We have to maintain the balance so that we will live peacefully forever. Thank you.
It is true, as most humans now live in cities, there is a need to understand how cities impact biodiversity and how urban biodiversity impacts people. Thank you, Dr. David C. Manulfak-Oma, for your informative and spectacular presentation. Okay. When program akhyanin dipoy mo Dr. K. Patsunga MLS on kansinga arote se ifande kaninti kanom dea sir ingela te soi turin le kan program job tui turin kan somdong cha kan somnanin pok sak turin kan nepal pok cha tuna Dr. K. Patsunga kun toi pang turi lo so mang
Mr. Chairman, PCC and additional PCF and tomorrow for Forest Development, Honorable Minister Senthil Kumar, Minister of Forest, and the Professor Lalnundanga, Registrar. He is my senior, and we really respect right from college. We thought, we used to tell, Lalnundanga is like a demigod. We really respect him. He is able leaders. with, then I feel free in the university. I feel at home because most of the researchers and scientists, they are my old mates. XD, I think, is a very famous in Mizoram State. Then people used to know XD. Then I am very happy the in-depth knowledge delivered by the scientists, Guru Swami, and just now, Nalfakoma. My background is education. I did teaching in college about more than 10 years. Then I did my PhD research in chemistry department. Then, but now turning to politician. I'm a very foolish man, you may think. You know, chemistry is a very tough, you can say. And we have to memorize and by heart a very long formula. Lots of carbon chain. Then many varieties of formulas and compounds are there. There is no application in politics. Why you turn into politics? But it still taught me tough. Research is a very, you can say, during my research, my guide left as soon as I joined my research. He left to Spain. Then I did alone. I'm very blind. Then I used to make friends with my seniors. Then I cannot open all the books and journals. Then I'm very blind. Some people are telling me, you please go back to your college because you don't have a guide. But it came in my mind, it's not the guide job, it's my job. I have to accomplish. Then we did our research up to late night. I think there may be some research school at present. Please remember, don't blame your guide. It's not your guide job, it's your job to complete your PhD. Then, okay, I'm not going further to studies, but I really appreciate Mizoram University because your performance, your publication, and Senthil and others also, they publish in Nature. Then publish paper in the journal is very important. But the more important is impact factor. What impact factor you are attained. Then we the Indian students are unlucky because we have lots of problems and barriers in language. Those who study science by their own language, they can attain more and more higher and they can do invention. Because, see, German, they achieve better than others. They study and learn by their own Germany. Then Japanese, they learn their subject in Japanese. Korean, Chinese. We the Indians, we learned in English. During my research and publication, every night and every time we face problem in English writing. We send our journal writing to the referee. Our referee are some are English, some are American, some are Europeans. They are very far better than us in English. Then they send back the papers with the red lines. Then every time we run after to the professor who are better in English. That is our disadvantage of the Indian student who cannot attain. But still then, during my research, Tamil boy, he used to come in my lab and he is my junior. As some under student, they are not good in English, but they are very industrious, very stubborn and dedicated and regular in their work and respect their work. They can achieve better. At present, they are abroad. all of my love nature abroad. Only me are left in the village, then doing politics. Then, okay, I'll end my speech. Then I wish Mizoram University to achieve higher and higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. K. Patsuma, for your kind and inspiring words. Now, let us move on to the next program. We have Lalnundanga, Department of Mizoram University. May I call her to have our recitation?
The poem I am about to recite is written by me in our language, Mizo. So let me firstly explain the central idea of this poem in English. This poem is to show the deep relationship between man and nature. As we all know, nature is the bedrock of human existence. Though we human nature to live above nature, we can't exist without nature is the central idea of this poem. Quarrel Kuvel Damnudila Pogil and Vilain the Kanpe Kundio Deva Borok Chungkong Hia Siala Vansang in Sakan Tulain Yehibna Kante Televa Pialain Lemlianga Du Sam Uma Lelung Swasami Kol Kai Rumpum Chain Maila Tunun Tu Hunin Min Eral Hunin Kante Nach Kante Hamzovanga Joy Kelly Low Till Low Siam Tu Hi Radial Vin Can Joy Ralam Kan Pian Vai Vutsira Zatuan Day Duan Tumachio Duan Chadna Chansan Tiam Chatin Num Sabna No Sakan Duaranga No Sin Low Num Karata Shing Nun Hi Atul Hen to Am Dalone.
Thank you, Lalnundanga, for your beautiful poetry. Now we have one more presentation from Professor Lalnundanga, Department of Zoology, Mizoram University. His presentation is on endemic and rare species of Mizoram, Herpetophaga.
All of you, especially our Chief Guest, respected Honorable Minister, and our Chairman, Registrar, and our respected MLA, I also call him UPCR, because he was our mentor during our stay in Hukan Pass. He is a mentor to all of the Mizo communities, not only Mizo community, even other notice people, students, scholars, and all other forest officials and my colleagues and research scholars. Today, I will spend only around 5 to 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes I'll try to spend. Though my presentation will be very lengthy, and I deleted more than 200 slides, which I gave presentation in this morning veterinary college. I'll delete these amphibian parts. So I'll start with this rare species of reptiles from Mizoram. Please regulate amphibian part. So being located in the Indo-Bangla spot, Northeast India is very rich in flora and fauna. All of us know that it is one of the biodiversity hotspots in India, out of 4 biodiversity hotspots. So since there are very less workers and researchers, there are very few documentation. And moreover, earlier works were on the basis of morphotaxonomy, conventional taxonomy. Then, herpetology, what is this? It is a study of amphibians and reptiles. First, since most of you are not from a science background, I would like to say that, elaborate about this is amphibian, leafless amphibian, newly discovered new species. I'll skip this one. New species which we describe, and now coming to reptiles. There are globally 11,733 known reptilian species. They are land breeder, leafless, and some are with 4 limbs. Leafless include those are glass lizards, snakes. And bodies are covered with this scale or plates. They are devoid of hair and feathers. And they are cold-blooded animal. If you observe, watch this movie, Jurassic Park, you might know them, this giant, this dinosaurs. During this Mesozoic era, it is known as golden age of reptiles. Like how we dominate this computer age globally by human beings, they also dominate this world in this period. So they are divided into 4 orders: snake and lizard, squamata, testudines, turtles, tortoise, crocodiles, and Rhizocephalia, which is found in New Zealand. Then among these 3,956 species of snakes living on Earth, 342 species are known from India. Before 1 week it was only 340. Because last week we described 2 new species from Mizoram, so now it becomes 342. So more than these 220 snake species in Northeast India are dead living on us. We don't even know this polyvalent will be efficacy for this against this venom, because this polyvenom it is prepared from 4 big 4 snakes, which are not available in Northeast India. They are from Celtic viper, Brazil viper, common crane, and naja. But they are not available in Northeast India, so it may not be suitable to use those antivenom available in the market for these different types of snake bites. Our start, we did 2 examine roadkill and survey 2 different microhabitats, and this is the basic taxonomy for snake identification, counting on the scale. How many scales are above this upper lip like that, and how many scales beyond are behind the eye like that. And this, like how human, we have 5 fingers. Same species, like feet number also. So like that, same species will have same number of these scales. So scientists they design many parameters and how to methods for scale counting. Then we establish our museum, and this is the python which we have, and this is Burmese python. Sometimes they used to confuse with Indian rock python. Indian rock python we don't have in Northeast. The easiest way how to identify is in the 7th supralabial scale. This will touch with the eye. Indian rock python, but here there is some popular. So it is the easiest way how to differentiate between Burmese python and Indian rock python. And this is the first well photo of this reticulate python, adult one. Okay, this is from southern part of Mizoram, and there is no report from other state of India. The longest snake in the world. This is the python. First evidence on the snake giving birth is a Hecula Pasina, which will be coming up in the Journal of Archaeological Bulletin from British Archaeological Society. And these are herbivores which are documented recently from Mizoram, and they are very rare, and some are found only in Meghalaya and Mizoram and Myanmar like that. And this is their biology, how they feed, and we documented these rare species that also used to eat other snake. This is in Dampa. It is consuming vulnerable species in the Rana Borealis. And you said before, and this is the new species which we described last week from Moreland. So we gave the name Herpetores Moreland by studying their genetic data in the sequence morphology. And this is Bithia reticulata earlier, it was monotypic genus. That means under this Bithia genus, only this reticulata is there. After this, we studied the natural history. There was no record of this natural history regarding this class size, multiple class size. That means we found this. That means this snake it does not breed only once in a year. This confirmed that. After the eggs were laying, then we found another class of eggs. Then this journal it is very expensive herpetozoa. I was very lucky that last time they gave me one paper to review. Then I reviewed and sent it back to Newton. Then he invited me to contribute another paper. Luckily, That time, one lady found this eggs in the Chelsea area. Then we incubated. Then this is that one that we get data. So from this data, we recorded optimal temperature for hatching, duration, neonate size like that. So we set this one and publish in this journal without any processing charge. Normally they charge 45,000 per paper. Then the second species was described from Bui Farm, so I gave the name, Ithia Bui Farm. And this is another tea snake, very rare. And this recently, in French journal, we published this one, the jellyfish genus. Earlier, we don't know about this snake, whether there are two species in between there, and this one was earlier identified as the jellyfish porpoise. But after examining hundreds of specimens with their DNA and morphology, then we concluded that we have three species of this jellyfish with some of our colleagues from Assam and Meghalaya. And this is another rare species. And this one, like Odonzoa, described from Mizoram by this Mizoram, Myanmar, Meghalaya, and Assam by this veteran herpetologist, American herpetologist, Professor Davis in 2001. Then he also died during 2001 due to snake bite in Myanmar, in the jungle, because during that time there was a certain scale, the helicopter could not reach to the jungle where they are staying. So, in memorial in this, we published this paper with all this detailed morphology of Lalnundanga and this hemipedial structure, DNA data for the first time, which was published in Herpetological Journal. And this is another discovered species. This one, Polygononga canatus, it was described from Meghalaya more than 100 years back by British people. Then only one specimen was described. Then again, the specimen was lost from museum, physical survey of India. So in India, we don't have this specimen, though it was recorded. But recently, luckily, we found this one in Champion Solar Wetland. So this is the place where they discovered, and here we Champion Solar Wetland. So we published this one in American Herpetological Journal, Amphibian Reptile Observation. So this is red leg, Ilbek Himalayana cell, Eleri. Earlier they were told us they are not venomous. But recently it was found that here they have their friend. They don't have poison blood or venom blood. But their venom, it is distributed across their lung. Suppose if biting on one time, it is not dangerous. But if it bites and chew for some time, it causes complications. It is hematoxin, and moreover, while chewing, the venom will go down to the injured part, and it causes the vascular disorder. And it is also not only venomous, it is also poisonous. From the neck, it can squeeze out this substance, which is, if it enters eye, it can cause blindness. Then, if it is swallowed, it can cause complication in the digestive tract. It is stored in this gland. It is derived from toad, that poison, which is known as bufotoxin. This is the new described from Assam and Mizoram. And this is another, not only new species, it is new genus Mitophes from this campus, not from Amazon basin. It is from here only. Don't need to go to a very far place. We should know our surrounding. We have to examine them. And this one also from America only. This is the leucistic water. Check out field there, and then this is the leucistic form. This is the normal one, which was published in Amphibian Reptiles. And this is the new report for the country. Earlier it was found only in this Myanmar and Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, like that. Then
This is the nearest location of this snake before we recorded. Then we found in Suambiloren, Saika, which we published in Himalaya Journal for the first report for the country. This is a snake eating snakes. And this snake was first described by Kyobo in 1892 from Myanmar. Then the specimen, single specimen was lost from Zoological Survey of India, Kolkata, in 1912. Then after that was the species was deleted, but there's modest now. Along with this Andersoni, but recently we found this specimen from Campus and other various part of Mizoram. Then we sequenced it and we found that we discovered and validate the species Parias modestum and Parias macularis. So published in the vertebrate zoology in the German journal. And this is the what they call to proceed. Recently described from our department. Now we have a male and female from Zoho, coral snake, Delphinomas. And with this paper, with American scientists and Japanese scientists, we publish all those species which are available under the Cynomycoras from Asia. This is how they do this. And this is left right. Then we'll come into this Incobra. It has a lot of stories. During our childhood, we used to hear so many stories about this mythology. That it can fly, it can burn, it can pierce through the body, like spill dust, the sperm can come up through the mouth, then a female guard the nest. So many stories are there. So we examine whatever we can get the dead bodies of these king cobra from various parts of the world. Our local people they are very good. They used to help me so many times. Even forest department and engineers, those who are constructing road. They used to send me to school, they used to call me, you need this specimen like that. Whenever they found this this specimen, then we examine and with DNA analysis, everything we confirm that it is here the cobra. So this is how we build the nest. And moreover, we dissolve people about senior citizens, they used to tell that female will guard the nest and male will be on the branch of the tree nearby. But in our visit, we have never seen any male. Only female. That one was very difficult to take photo because they are very shy and they will run away once if they hear the sound, if they detect the sound. So it was not like that. How they used to And more than 44 in Koran we already studied throughout Mizoram, for various parts of Mizoram. Then this one, we along with all the data we published in this archaeological bulletin. This is the place we exported and studied before. So coloration also from olive to dark. This is during August, this is during winter. Because the color can change. All of us we think that in Koran they are blackish, uniformly blackish, but it is not like that. If you see clearly, or if you examine the case specimen, you will find that there are stripes. It is still retained from the United States. So this is usually during winter become very blackish because they are ectothermic. They need to absorb heat from their surrounding. So black is the plain color, it absorbs heat. So like that, it can metabolically it can eat. There will be no problem. And yesterday our friend from Western Land, Bobby Sankar, they published about this distribution is from Western Land to Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, like that. Since many scientists believe that there may be more than one species, at present it is below the big genus. Ophiophagus canapoli. Under this Ophiophagus, there are no other species. But there was suspicion that there might be more than one species under this. So, in this paper, he found different clades. Then, I'm sharing before this paper came out. We are writing on it, and in this paper, we are describing three body species. One from the Western Ghats, and another from Indonesia, and another from Philippines. And the working cobra here is what is there, surrounding is the real cobra. And this is the distribution. Of your class, this is Ungaras, Bama, this is there, Sabatana, this Zulaya, Philippines. And recently, this specimen was collected from Shanghai, and another specimen was collected by this our friend RBT in Boli, this military station. So we found that there are safe species and these are new species. So we published this one on Friday, last Friday, in the journal of Moscow. After studying all the details of morphology, skeleton, skull, and DNA. So it is estimated that what having to be sustained by them because of this community, like I is estimated that India had 1.2 million state by state, representing a difference of 58,000 per year from 2000 to 2019. With nearly half the between age 30 to 69 and over a quarter being children under 15. This is due to what we don't have, but it's ungiven. Okay? Most deaths and serious consequences of state by are entirely preventable by making safe and effective antibiotics or widely available and accessible. So the situation in Mizoram is very bad. Those they can harm, but if you look at their globally the ecosystem, they are very important. Rat snakes, cobras, and typical rodenticas, rat and rodents come in, and estimated 1/5 of India's grain production. So if you eliminate all the snakes in the field and cultivation area, there will be more destruction on this our food production. Because only the snakes are able to enter the rat hole and prey on their food from the humans. And moreover, they are protected by Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So we prepare this kind of pamphlet. This is a venomous snake of Mizoram. This is Tuha and this is Tuha. Then feed by male, female, and another snake. This is same species. And the cobra, check out here. Then out of 64 confirmed species from Mizoram, these 30 species are alien venomous. So I think that's
very well. I can't come up with the right word to command, but then all that come up to my mind right now is scary and enduring presentation. It was very scary and enduring at the same time. Thank you so much, Professor Kumar, for your presentation. This one, when Atana Kankwalyan Per, Kankwalyan Tasiga, Yander, the Ira Adixok, Mainkaringa, Lalnundanga, Minister of Environment and Forest, Climate Change, Chairman Mizoram State Biodiversity Board, Nilaimet Boktu, when Kankwalyan Tasiga, Yander, the Ira. This one, do not turn about whom to a puncturing and also
Honorable Chairman, PCCF, Registrar, and Registrar, Lalnundanga, Honorable MLA, who Dr. Pachuma, and all other officers and researchers who are present here all today. Good afternoon to you all. Today, my turn has come at the last moment. Now I am comparing with that in this house we practice a special occasion with the celebration with feast, and at the time of feast ready and the meal ready,
and the chairman invite to have a speech at the time of people are hungry and eagerly waiting for a dinner like that. Now I'm also comparing with that. So anyway, I'll not take long my time, my speech. So today we are coming to two politicians from Mizoram. One is chemistry teacher in the college, Lungle, and who turns to politics. Another one who is standing before you is a taxi driver, transportation, who pursue touch a college student in Lungle. And I used to drive my taxi in Champai. We both are trans in politics in Mizoram. So today, since I have no experience in science field, today I have a good opportunity to listen a good presentation from Professor Guru Subramanian, Professor School of Life Science, and Dr. David, and Professor Lalnundanga, whom I am admiring him, that I used to see his video from the distance. I used to admiring him from distance. Today I am very happy to see in life. So today I would like to thank Environment, Forest, Climate Change and Mizoram University for providing a platform for creating awareness about biodiversity issues engulfing the world today. Biodiversity is essential for sustaining the balance of the planet. Creation of awareness is the need of the day for survival of all species on Earth. The theme for this year's International Day for Biological Diversity, Building a Shared Future for All Life, spells out the importance of biodiversity in handling several sustainable development challenges. All life forms are created with a purpose. The diminishing or extinction of a particular life form can cause negative impact on our ecosystem. It is therefore important to conserve and protect all life forms for creation of a healthy ecosystem. Biodiversity is an essential for our today activities and for our own survival. The importance is the same for both for people living in urban and rural areas. At the same time, it is vital for people living in rural areas as well as down to them whose occupation and livelihood depends on biodiversity. Mizoram is fortunate to be among the 36 biodiversity hotspots in the world. The world species biodiversity of Mizoram has a very taxonomic range in proportion to the enormous diversity of ecosystems and geographical conditions which these species inhabit. Since time immemorial, we have a rich biodiversity which our forefathers have depended upon for their livelihood and survival. However, in the last few decades, this diversity has faced increasing erosion, habitat loss, hunting and overexploitation, introduction of exotic species in river ecosystem, poisoning and other factors including progressive
disempowerment of local communities, and stabilization of Mizo traditional management system have caused these loss. Therefore, in our surroundings, it is imperative to have a well-placed system in order to conserve further deterioration and to sustain life forms. In line with the National Biodiversity Plan, the state has constituted the Mizoram State Biodiversity Board on 17 January 2006 as a commitment towards our efforts for sustaining biodiversity. Various actions have been taken up by the board, which is believed to have positive impact. In order to conserve and sustain our biodiversity, the government has declared several areas as national parks, reserve forests, wildlife sanctuaries, and community reserve forests. These declarations have been made to avoid disturbance to the ecosystems and to preserve the area as they are naturally. Apart from this, biodiversity management committee has been constituted in almost all the villages and has been functioning effectively under the guidance and direction of experts from the concerned department. Knowing importance and significance of biodiversity, I invite all present here today to take as a responsibility to educate others in conservation of our biodiversity for sustaining life on Earth. So today, I would like to continue in Mizo for reacting some points with concerning about the forest department in Mizo regarding that kami China Khotsung forestry sang akahe kan chalai te zilai chalai tam tak nama heng hi Mizoram nga fak le kan base university at zero chen chu mi pui na hi ta sang tak kan thir India chu bang chuan voina hian kan mamo chu nangwa ni India chiang le suan so ka Mizoram mamo ahi ataka iron ti kan dua chulai kan sei dulai chu kan rama hian mithiam tam tak anom thoa chu mithiam tam tak chuan tunan thiam na man chu kan ram foi tu te mo kan ni mo sa te mo deu so pa kum sang bitel lo chang kan to kum sang bitel history lo nei to ti dan kan soya keini ve ti tengin bul kan than thina hei hi university zirlai te tengin voina hian ngen du kan ni atta ka hrichianga midang fui pornan chau kan thiamna manglo turin kan ramin mo cheu ni ti hi voina hian in fiat ka duwa chumi tu ta sang kang ngen moi cheu ni kan ram hian mi thiam ram ta ron thok tur kan mamo tak ni tu na hian WhatsApp le Facebook at thiam na lan tira tu te mo fui pora tu te mo dam niam tum rana sarkarin thil eng ma ti lo le ngai sak lo nga at ti thina mai na ngai na hi thini ka hria chu voina hian rem cha kal tu ka ngen tu cheu ni chubi tu ta chuan keima department chana ngat phei chuan kai hong em forest department environment forest department base NGO ho po ka ngen thina kumtrat tira te thing pui ka in puya kai hong ani ti thu te kan se thina ma ro chu tu na hian ka base angin rot na le mi ron fin chu tu ataka kan hunawa akron atikot ma amai ro chu Facebook le WhatsApp a chu fin tak tak an tamani ti ka hria chu ba so ataka thok thei tur hi kan ramin amamo tak set chu li ti hi voina he kan se ti chu ni kan tu din mun kan thut na hian ke ni kan thureng lovang chu ti ron thu tur te mo mi chang kai tu hi kan na mi na mo tak set ni ti hi voina hian ka cham du chewa khata thu rem cha khelo pon in fit na in thiam na ron ti chok tu ri ka du chewi le kan sei le du chu kho chung forest su cha a hian community forest reserve hi kan nei du fe ka Mizoram kan la van ne amai ro chu ni china kan honorable registrar in a sei to a dense forest ang chi chu kan nei tlema a green forest ang chi chu a person chu sang ni a ti chi chu wang chu tran la me tam tak kan nei ma so na tu tam tak kan nei a chu ma so na tu kan nei chu ram dang te ma so na tu infrastructure lama ma so na kan mo kan du ve kan ban ve ni chu ti ro chuan ngai tu na fing zo nge kan ka puyang ti lai so hi kan mo ania chu mi a chuan he tu la po hian forestry urban forestry chung cha la po thei to kan chua nagarvan project aron suaka khopui chung forest ti hima ti chang tu na mi puite tan rem chang si ma hi kan tum ania chu central ina atum ania municipal area chu kha nagarvan project kha kalpui turin ti aron nia chu municipal area chu ti chu minister ne na kan soya suta kan soya chuan Mizoram a hian district headquarter so pakhat awma urban area vek ania municipality anga declare lanilo ma se urban area declare vek a population so min te saklo ula katia ti chuan chumi chu kan minister central minister ten miron fiat puya forest department hi manle khap ringot mai anga mi min ngai na hi adiklava mi pui mamo global issue kalpui tu department kan ni wangin mi pui te na an lo lo pe tu le mi pui te na an tang ka pui ve thei tu ra hi kan kalpui ve ngai ti in nagarvan project in district zone so hale town area min ti sak tu reng an tia chu tu na hian central in miron phal sakani a guideline na municipality area chu ti kha chu koi na hian kan sei lam duwa state sarkarin top so in he kan urban forest pri lampang te urban forest area te mala an maso tu rin thei top chhuani ti kha kan sei lam duwa then atok le chuan jaika project a hi tu na hian kalpui me ania hei hi thian sara plotting turin kan hen besia chunga chuan mi puite tel ve na turang chi le mi puite hlok na an lo chan ve the tu hi tu na hian kan kalpui na sa a tin heta hian botanical garden a thua kan khiat mistake ta chuan an tina sa yan ti kha hei kalpui chho kan tum a ini hi china ka sei film tu devin champhai kan pelna la re lo khup maya state daga botanical garden an kalpui po kan lam lo amaro chu youtube le lo vela tia ka han ti chowa hian na han pu cho ve tan ta a chunga chuan an kalpui na botanical garden te ai khang tin nagarvan project ang chi te khang kha khopui chunga ko mi pui te limna pe thei tu hi kan kalpui dola chu tiang project chu tu la hian kan boi pui me kan ya na tu la wa hian chai ka ho japan ho te po anon kal dola ka tiang khan ma la me kan ya tin kan lui tui kam zel chung sa ate china thala ka po kan muwa khang tiang chung sa po khan zirtir na petua kan ta poi mo a chumi a chuan thei top chui sarkarin kan kalpui ani chu fin chuan then du tam tak fin chuan tu tam tak mamo kan nei department point sarkar ang point chunga chu kan in hong boka tuna hian chemical pui tu khan riverine catchment area treatment kan kalpui turin project tu la hian kan kalpui meka kan project del mo thlen chu ataka mi pui te na an mu thei turin kan tuin room hala chungcha apo awareness dial zo kalpui zel kan tumani ichil kan soyang deu khan engineer po kupsa ko som rupandia ke solo chun mizo pa kan la nei chomani kan state hian midang kan ve changa chuwang chu kan thlen chi dai hian kan tang tlang ni ti lai kha kan sei duwa tin tu na po hian green Mizoram day he june ni soma mantum ni som na ni kwa khan ti non ta ni ni soma man kan tuma ta po chuan tlong kama man kan tuma chu tin chuan tun he kan in bo se me ani tian dok le chuan air rifle chung cha po kha forest department kan call chia tang khan kabineta kan soi phala ti chuan a strict zo ka pui dan le khang tiang license akap na deu chi ho khang tiang po khira dan te le license te lowa local pui ho po kha strict zo ka kalpui turin tu la hian thu chuate siamai to chu chu the angin the top chuin ma la ania kan DFO te RO te open tu la hian enge mo sa mang to a amai ro chu thil hi a har sa em lai chu Mizoram chu close knit society nai vai ta in chung khat laina in chian tha tam em soi pui tu le soi sak tu an tam em thi hian mi he ti boi thi da em po ni sila kan vai kan tran rola kan ti chuan flotin na kan na chan kan ring ani tu na po hian silai surrender po lo om le silai ti chia po hi en report chan kan ul maya kan lo khop pai ten hey voina hian kan sile tu lai chu university zero lai te ka som tu chu nang ma ni lecture ron pe ya life science lam pang chung sa lecture ron pe ya ti tur dilovin nang ma ni na in thiam na helaya in fiat na in lo zil chua input pe the tur helai mun at hian kan registrar ten remanti chuan kan ron kal se chu po kai ring kai ready ni ti kha voina kan sei dua in thiam na zo ro mi na mo a in thiam na sarkar ga mo ni ti kha voina in sei le do ni chu tiang hun ram sang tu la chuan in input lo dong song turin department ho den kan secretary ho ten po kan na ron kal thanga DFO ten po chu tiang tur chuan hun ram sang semila ni china kan registrar in thubul lama aron soya chu transfer of knowledge from the university to the needy people saka khami ka aron soya chumi chu voina hian department po hian kan mawa ram mi puin kan mawa chumi wang chuan voina hian zero line on kan khom te kan professor rol te kan mi thiam ho rol te in thiam na pur chu turin helai muna kan ron kal dom in rem ti chuan ti lai kha kan sei non ni chu kan ka sei thi to ni se ka me
Puti je Lalnuntuanga ihun tu tak min peng wangin le thu cha chatak te min soi sa wangin chunga kan lo me. Alright, not last but the least, now we have one more special item to go with. I may now call upon Ms. Puri to perform her special item. There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. In this place, it was brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you'll feel there's no hurt or sorrow. to embrace us with your soothing voice. Thank you so much, Mr. Bui. Now we have come to the end of our program, and I would like to call upon Puara Siha to deliver a vote of thanks.
Very good afternoon, good evening to all the distinguished guest invitees present in this auditorium. It was a really very informative session, and it helped truly in understanding the value of biodiversity and acknowledging the problems associated with this. With these words, at the very outset, on behalf of all present here, I would take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks, gratitude to our chief guest, who is Lalnundanga, Honorable Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Law and Judicial, Transport, and Chairman of Mizoram State Biodiversity Board. Sir, I have been associated with Sir, and I have seen that he had taken always keen interest in the issues related to forest and many times related to biodiversity, directly or indirectly. He had been always inspiring us, motivating us on various occasions, whether it is wetland, going to Tamil, taking a stroll around, going to Ramdel in Kwartha, wetland, taking and understanding the balance between the nature and the water, and with us, mankind, who is supposedly being said that we are putting this biodiversity a bit in danger. Sir has always been there, whether it is welcoming the apex animal tiger to the state, or rally on wheels from Dampa Tiger Reserve to the zoo, which are all our protected areas, are indicators of how we are protecting and trying to preserve and conserve our biodiversity associated with the state. So again, I will really thank Sir, who has inspired with his very valuable words on this occasion, and he had always been inspiring and motivating all of us. And we are sure that in future also we will be getting Sir's guidance as we are getting today. I will also take this opportunity to thank Dr. K. Pachunga, Honorable MLA, who had graced this occasion and inspired with his valuable words on the occasion. In fact, it was a little bit of surprise, but at the same time, it was a motivation for us, all of us, that he also belonged to academia. He was associated with the teaching line. So it was all very good to know about this for all of us. And on this occasion, I will thank our guest of honor, Professor Lalnundanga, Registrar, Mizoram University, who had, first of all, he had helped us in organizing such a wonderful session where academia, government, resource manager, future generation representatives, NGOs, everybody has come together to understand and acknowledge the issue associated with. Sir has highlighted some of the issues which are very, very important, and we will definitely try to keep those things while we move forward in our direction. I will take this opportunity to thank our chairman, Principal Chief Conservator of Forest and Principal Secretary Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Jitendra sir, who has vast experience in the field, working in Mizoram as well as working in Government of India and associated with planning through his experience and tenure in Niti Aayog. Sir has always been guiding us minutely, monitoring all the we have to take the initiatives in various initiatives we have to take, and we have seen that a lot many initiatives Sir has guided us, and as we could see here during his address, he has highlighted that we have to associate people, because no one can alone achieve this this biological diversity and conserve and preserve without the involvement of the local people, who are one of the biggest, I can say, the stakeholders. In fact, we have been constituting various bodies like Biodiversity, environmental committees, and directly associated with the biodiversity is BMCs, and quite a lot number, and in fact many of the BMCs are taking lead, and definitely that will help in future in preserving and conserving our biodiversity. I will take this opportunity to thank our resource person, Professor Guru Subramaniam, Professor, School of Life Science, Dr. David, Dr. S.T. Lalnundanga, who had given a very informative presentation and helped us in understanding the issues related to biodiversity and why we should conserve all biodiversity. I will also take this opportunity to thank our Chief Wildlife Warden, P. Lalnundanga Silo, and also Professor N. Senthil Kumar, Dean, School of Life Sciences, who had worked together and taken all the initiatives to make this program, where we have seen how informative and wonderful session we had. I will also thank P. Kui and P. Sani, who had, from their voices and recitation, we have helped us to bring us closer to the lives around us on the earth, for which we have assembled together to preserve. So, a lot of thanks to them also. And I will thank all the officials and staffs of Department of Forest Climate Change, all the officials and staffs of Mizoram University, all the students who are the stakeholders for the future, to whom we are going to hand over the batons. We are also thankful to all the representatives of NGOs who have been present here and who has always been helping us to achieve our objective. In the end, I will also thank the press and media people who have taken all pain to cover this important program, which is truly very important. Maybe it is not visible in short yet, but in the long term, this is going to be very, very important subject. So with these words, I will thank one and all for making this program successful and informative.
Thank you, Puaresina, for your time. And with that, we come to the end of our program. We thank each and everyone for bearing with us till the end of the program. Once again, thank you all.